Gab Sutton, give us your 1 to 24 for the Championship next season.
I've got Sunderland winning the league. Bit of a surprise, but I think that young squad is about to hit its peak, and I think the talent in that squad is absolutely off the scale. I'm expecting Jack Clarke, if he stays, to have a massive season for the Black Cats. I also rate lots of other players in that squad, like Dan Ballard and Trey Hume. So Sunderland win the league for me. Leeds, even if they lose Crescencio Somerville, get top two, providing that they can replace him. Third for West Bromwich Albion, I think there's a feel-good factor there under Shilan Patel's new ownership regime, and I think they've got one of the best managers in the league in Carlos Corberán. Middlesbrough, though, only finished 4 points off the playoffs last season with barely able to get their first 11 on the pitch together. If they can do that this season, I think they've got a great chance of being in the promotion mix. Fourth for the Borough, and watch out for Emmanuel Lattelat, 13 goals in the last 12 games of last season. Fifth, Luton Town. I think they've got very good squad depth after relegation from the Premier League last season. About 20 players who I'm confident can make a real impact at Championship level, and I think that's going to tell over a full season under a good coach in Rob Edwards. So fifth for Luton Town. Sheffield Wednesday, I think, can be the dark horses under the highest potential manager in the Championship in Danny Röhl. Playoff form for the Owls after Röhl's sixth game in charge, and that's basically 2/3 of a season. So now he's had a year to get a summer to get his ideas across. I think that's going to be absolutely huge. So for me, Sheffield Wednesday finished sixth, the last playoff spot. Just missing out to a Coventry City. I wanted to put them in because I think they've got a really exciting squad, and I've got a lot of faith in Mark Robins, but Coventry just miss out for me. So too did Norwich, who are undergoing stylistic transition under Johannes Hoff-Thorup. Burnley, for me, a bit of a surprise for some people in ninth. I think they've got the biggest squad in the Championship, and I think it's probably a top six squad on paper, but I don't trust Scott Parker. I've never been convinced by him as a manager, and I think his Conservatives might hold the Clarets back. Bristol City are building a high-energy squad under Liam Manning. I think they get a top 10 finish. I think Stoke manage a top half finish, their first since coming down to the Championship in 2018, with a good manager now in Stephen Schumacher, and I think last summer's investments are going to start to bear fruit. Queen's Park Rangers, meanwhile, Marty Cifuentes started to get it right in the second half of last season. Lucas Anderson's, I think, is going to be huge for the R's. I also like Jake Clark-Salter at the back. So for me, Queen's Park Rangers manage a top half finish. Swansea just finished below them in 13th. I really like Luke Williams as a coach. I think the style that he's going to implement is much more aligned with the Swansea way than what we've seen previously under Michael Duff, and I think that fit is going to make a massive difference to players like Matt Grimes, but I don't think there's enough depth in that squad, and I think they're going to be too reliant on youth. So for me, Swansea finish in the bottom half in 13th. Sheffield United, I think, are going to flop this season. They have made some good signings, but I think in terms of depth, and even in certain positions in their best 11, like the goalkeeping position and in defence, and even up top, I think there's major question marks there, and I'm not sure Chris Wilder's, I think his stock has been lowered, and I think he's a manager, dare I say, a little bit on the way down, with all the respect to what he's achieved in his career. So Sheffield United, for me, 14th. Cardiff City in 15th. Errol Bulut had a good first season in charge, but the numbers didn't quite back that up. So I'm expecting a little bit of a regression from last year's top half finish, and I'm not sure that they're going to make the additions that are required. I'm a bit sceptical of Chris Willock. Certainly got the talent, but has he got the attitude to really fit into what Bulut wants? So for me, Cardiff finish 15th. Just below them in 16th, I've got Portsmouth. I think their bounce-back ability that they showed in League One, whenever they did have the odd big setback, they responded so well with an ugly win, and I think that kind of mentality is going to help them tick over a healthy points tally, and I think they'll be right as rain in 16th, their first season up, under a talented, exciting young manager in John Mousinho. Preston North End, I expect regression for. They did manage a top 10 finish last season, but that was basically by winning 6 of their first 7 by narrow wins, a little bit unconvincing, and from then on it's been bottom 6 form, and that's what, 5/6 of a season or something along those lines. So I think Preston North End, are going to regress into the bottom half, although they have got a decent core of players like Liam Lindsay at the back. So 17th for Preston North End for me. Hull City, I've got plunging into 18th, because I think they made a mistake letting go of Liam Rosenior, and I think their planning and preparation for this season has been poor, because not only have they lost key players, they've lost them at inconvenient at times, and I think they're bringing in players at the 11th hour, and that's not the position that I'd want them to be going into the season in, having lost a lot of star players from last season. So 18th for me, Hull City. 19th, Millwall. Neil Harris enjoyed some great form at the back end of last season, getting them up for the dogfight. He knows how to make the Den a fortress when push comes to shove. I think he'll do that again, but I don't think he's going to sustain it over a full campaign, because I do feel he's limited as a manager at Championship level. But I think he'll have enough about him to keep the Lions safe in 19th. Watford, I think, could be a potential plummeter this season under Tom Cleverley. They've got a decent set of players in. Georgie Chakvetadze is going to be the big hope for this season after his campaign with Georgia at the Euros. But I'm a little bit not sure about the squad. A little bit, I think the level of investment has taken a drop at Watford, and I'm not sure that they've got what it takes to cope, to be smart enough to outweigh the budgetary limitations. And Tom Cleverley is a complete unknown. So for me, Watford are going to get dragged into a relegation battle in 20th. Derby County, I think, are just about going to beat the drop in 21st. I think they signed a lot of players who are fit for the job of getting them out of League One, but I don't think they're going to be up to Championship level, and I think that's one of the challenges that Paul Warne has got to face this season. For me, Derby County finish 21st. Oxford United just go down in 22nd. I like Des Buckingham's coaching profile. I think he's an exciting coach, and I think the recruitment means they're building a squad that, if it was to go down to League One, would be a hell of a squad for that level, like Idris El Mazouni and Jack Curry they're signing, but I'm not sure they've got enough about them at Championship level. Plymouth Argyle for me in 23rd after Oxford in 22nd. Wayne Rooney is the appointment that I'm not entirely convinced about, and I'm sceptical about whether the uncertainty over key players like Morgan Whittaker is going to hang over them. Plus, they've also lost Finn Azaz and Luke Cundle in January and haven't replaced them yet. Not in that window, and arguably not in this one. So Plymouth Argyle for me in 23rd. And 24th, I've got Blackburn Rovers, because of the uncertainty hanging over the club that will come down to the Venky's court case on August the 20th. I think they've got a decent first 11, but they've got no depth, and they're going to be too reliant on a decent youth academy, but a lot of players are going to have to step up if there's any sort of injury crisis with players that aren't up to Championship level. So Blackburn Rovers for me finish in 24th.